Emotional intelligence is probably the most important thing that I've ever learned. And I'm just a super emotional person. I always have been, probably always will be, and that in of itself is not a bad thing. I think that's okay. However, if you start letting your emotions dictate your decisions, then I think you're stepping on thin ice because your emotions, they don't always have your best interest in mind. Most of the time, they really don't. You're going to say something you regret, you're going to do something you regret just because your mind was influenced by this emotion. Maybe you were too angry, maybe you're too sad. It could even be a positive emotion. It could be maybe you were too happy or you're celebrating or something like that. And sometimes that's going to lead you to not making the greatest of decisions. 1 Peter 5:8, it's a commonly referred to verse, especially when people are talking about drugs and alcohol. It calls us to be alert and sober minded. But, I think it goes a lot deeper than that. It's not necessarily just drugs and alcohol. Having a sober mind is being of the influence of anything, even if it's of the influence of your own emotions. So I think it's okay to have that conversation with someone and maybe you're having an argument with someone and you agree to disagree and be like, hey, maybe we pick up this conversation tomorrow when we're both a little bit less angry, and that could be super, super beneficial. And that can be for any emotion. If you have an important decision to make or even a small decision to make, don't let it ruin a friendship. Don't let it ruin your life because you're an emotional person. Take a deep breath and look at that decision the next day. It can wait. Trust me. It's more important to wait and be late to make a good decision than rush into a bad one because you're emotional.